Coming up next, CityNet 30 takes you downtown for the weekly luncheon meeting of the City Club of Portland. Live weekly coverage of City Club is produced through the facilities of Portland Cable Access. Now we join the City Club for this week's program.
Portland State University President Daniel Bernstine and Portland Mayor Vera Katz. This special event is the centerpiece of Portland State's day-long symposium on developing a shared regional vision for the 21st century. It also marks the beginning of a year-long visioning exercise with the broader metropolitan community. To that end, all City Club members here today are invited to join discussion groups that will immediately follow today's program. I would also like to take this opportunity to say that this is most likely the closest I will ever come to presiding at a faculty meeting. This past weekend, I had a remarkable opportunity to participate in an Aspen Institute program on education in a changing society. Some of you have already heard me say that it's easy to have lofty thoughts when you're more than a mile high, but there's a wonderful symmetry between the Aspen Institute conversations of last weekend and the disciplined process of informed dialogue and inquiry that Portland State launches today. It's about values and coherence and civic discourse about complex matters. It's also about the future of decision-making in a democratic society. In many ways, what the City Club of Portland is all about. Clearly, Portland State will be addressing many workforce-related issues in the months ahead, as well as more general questions about what an educated person, broadly conceived, looks like in the 21st century. One could argue that the ability to think critically and communicate effectively will only become more important as we imagine a more technologically sophisticated and interdependent world. Broadly, liberally educated engineers, for example, people who can work together, listen, understand, explain, translate, persuade, and empathize, will be essential in the world we are beginning to imagine 25 years from now. That's my soapbox. And it's now my privilege to ask President Bernstine and Mayor Katz to stand on theirs. We will have the last question at approximately 10 minutes after 1, so that our speakers can have 5 minutes for closing comments. It is their prerogative, however, to let the questions run until 1/4 after. President Bernstine, Mayor Katz.
Thank you, Harriet. Thank you to the City Club of Portland for providing Mayor Katz and me this opportunity to talk to you today about a great city and a great university and why the two are inseparably linked. This is a very important day for Portland State. It's also a very important time in our history. For more than 50 years, PSU has been an integral part of this great city. More than 80,000 of our citizens have earned degrees here, and PSU's faculty and students have been active in the community in academic and research programs, and its citizens have jobs, raise families, own homes, and participate in the life of our neighborhood and our city. There have been many instances of city-university cooperation over the years, but in all those 50 years, there has never been the kind of wholehearted public commitment on the part of the city to the future of Portland State that we see today. And we want to thank Mayor Katz for that. How we continue to build that relationship and what it might accomplish for the university and the city is what we want to talk about today. The format for this presentation will be more or less a dialogue between the mayor and myself. We do not have prepared speeches, and I know you might be disappointed, but I hope you can bear up under that.
Well, we do have notes.
But we do have notes. So this is kind of an unrehearsed notes presentation. To begin today's discussion, I'm pleased to introduce Mayor Vera Katz.
Thank you, Dan. I'm really very pleased to be here this afternoon standing next to the president of Portland State University. And I have to tell you, I'm very enthusiastic about the university's future in research and development, in professional programs, and let's not forget liberal arts as well. I want Portlanders, and I think if some of you were here during my State of the City address, I did say that I wanted Portlanders to be the best educated, most creative, and skilled workforce in the nation. And I'm committed, just as I'm committed to making sure that we have a healthy K through 12 system, I'm committed to helping Portland State University grow to the next level of excellence. I believe and have always believed that a quality education can be the most single, direct path to an enriched, productive life for all of our citizens. During my service in the legislature, some of you might remember, Portland State University was viewed as a very diverse place of learning with the most head counts of all the universities and the colleges in the state. But even with the fact that you had more people, more diverse citizens coming to your institution, you all did not get adequate state funding, and that, thank goodness, has changed. Increasingly now, Portland State University is becoming known for high-quality research done by its faculty, by its programs, and by the contributions of faculty and students that are enriching this community.
You're right, Mayor. In fact, again this year, PSU has done a tremendous job of providing both access and excellence. Portland State always tries to be responsive to the community's needs, and we are succeeding. Last fall, again, we were the largest university in the Oregon university system. We had more than 1,000 more students than the next largest institution in the system. And Portland State also has the largest graduate enrollment in the state. And when you add our extended studies and summer programs, we have by far the largest unduplicated headcount of any university in Oregon. You mentioned the resource allocation model. Until the last legislative session, of course, PSU was always penalized under the budget system used by the Chancellor's office. Under the new model, institutions are not rewarded, instead students are rewarded. And as a result of that, last biennium PSU received an increase of $15 million in its budget. Growth in enrollment is crucial to our future, but equally important, PSU is committed to quality in all of its programs. And in fact, we do have programs that are nationally recognized. Our programs in urban studies, public health, and social work are all nationally recognized. I could also add that our engineering students and our accounting students, our accounting graduates and engineering graduates consistently score way above the national average on national tests. But national recognition is important. It means that others in academia believe in what we're doing and that we're doing the right things. But national recognition is not a goal in and of itself, not unlike cities that have achieved national recognition. Portland's goal was not to win a livable city competition. It was to build a livable city for its citizens. For PSU, our goal is to build quality programs in response to the community's needs, and hopefully national recognition will follow. There are many other interesting and unusual facts about PSU, and you have some of those on your tables. I hope you'll take the time to look at this brochure. I hope you'll learn some of these facts and share them with others in the Portland community.
And Dan, you should be proud. When you look at the roster, and it's going to be a short list that I'm going to identify, of PSU graduates that have given so much back to the community. I can think of Fred Miller, who's the Senior Vice President of PGE and a community leader, and an individual that has made a commitment to do whatever needs to be done to make sure that schools are properly funded. Mary Dingle, a principal at Marysville Elementary School, a recognized education leader for her work with high performance for a very low-income school. Artist, writer David Douglas Duncan, author of The River Wye and The Brothers K. Vic Rhodes. Vic, I know you're here. Raise your hand. He belongs to us, director of the Portland Department of Transportation for this city, and he has been the leader in the city's development of our transportation system. And even though he's an engineer, he thinks, yeah, well, don't get me started, because engineers and lawyers and but even though he's an engineer, Vic is creative. Oh. He thinks with both sides of the brain. And you, of course, all know Peter Stott, who's done so much for Portland State University and for the community. He's the CEO of Crown Pacific. And our own Denny West, director of the Housing Authority of Portland, and Shota Zono, president of Azumanu Travel, the incoming Portland Chamber president, also a leader in education and education funding in Portland. And former colleagues of mine, Senator Avell Gordley, Representative Randy Leonard, Representative Margaret Carter, have all served this community with distinction at the Oregon legislature. Now, these are just a few names. There's a lot of you sitting here that I should have mentioned. But these individuals have benefited from the liberal arts education and the professional programs, a lot of the excellent graduate programs. And you have touched thousands of individuals like those that I mentioned by the educational opportunities provided by the university. So I want to thank Portland State. I want to thank the staff and the faculty here today that represent this excellent institution and have provided an excellent education for such students and for what those graduates have in turn contributed back to this community. Now that's the good news. But let's not duck the bad. I'm not sure that was the right metaphor to use, and for that I apologize. In this knowledge-based economy, you have heard me ask the question over and over again. Should we compete by providing the cheapest workers or the smartest? And the answer is obvious. But you also know that the headlines a few months ago said, quote, "Universities hold back Oregon's future because we don't have a top tier for science and technology." And I also hear from Intel, who now is telling us that it has to go outside of the state for 80% of its new engineers because we aren't graduating enough. Now stop and think about that. That's a shame. Those are good wages, and we should have those engineers in this region and in this community. Now the problem, as I learned a couple of years ago, isn't only a problem in Portland. I had a meeting with Jim Root, the CEO of Sabrosa, which is a fruit concentrate company in Medford, and I asked him the question about his workforce, thinking that he would probably be able to get anything he wants out of Oregon State University or Agricultural Land University. And he says, no, he can't get enough Oregon students to work in his factory. And the factory is a high-tech factory. So we really do have a problem that we need to address. We have to increase the number of homegrown engineers, scientists, managers, entrepreneurs. We have to create a vital center, a critical mass of research and education that is absolutely essential for us to develop as a city and as a university. The city can't do it alone. The university can't do it alone. In fact, the city and Portland State cannot and should not do it alone.
Well, first, as a lawyer, I think I've just been insulted.
You probably were.
Secondly, when you use the term duck, and I didn't even flinch, because I think that one can be a duck or a beaver and still be a Viking. Portland State is your university, and we need your support. But I definitely agree with you about the need for investments in science, engineering, and technology. And it's not all bad news. PSU is among the top 3 institutions in the Pacific Northwest providing employees to Intel. Yesterday, I was at a meeting at Intel with our alumni, and I learned that over 650 grads from PSU work at Intel's Oregon site. But more needs to be done, and PSU certainly can't tackle the problem alone or in isolation. And we can't forget that while industry is calling for greater investment in engineering and science, they are also demanding that we focus on the values of a liberal arts education, so workers can come prepared with high-level analytical and communication skills. Mayor Katz, as long as I've known you, you've challenged me in higher education to work together, to focus on collaboration more than competition. I agree with you, and here's what we're doing about it. Recently, PSU, the Oregon Health Sciences University, and the Oregon Graduate Institute constructed an alliance called the Metropolitan Collaborative. That alliance will build on this region's capacity for research and education in engineering, science, and biotechnology. That collaborative will have a combined budget of more than $200 million and serve more than 24,000 students. That puts us on a par with some of the top universities in the country. But that's not enough. We need to build and have higher aspirations. A very realistic for the Alliance is that by 2010, our total research budget will exceed $360 million. And that would put us on the par with institutions such as the University of Wisconsin, the University of Arizona, University of Minnesota, Cornell, and UCLA. In your State of the Union address, when you pledged your help for our engineering program, you said that we've been having this conversation for at least 25 years. It's time to set aside institutional egos and make it happen. I couldn't agree with you more. Our proposal includes roles for all of the institutions in the Oregon University system. Eastern Oregon University, where we are now providing electrical engineering classes via the internet. We have also invited the University of Oregon and Oregon State and asked them to bring their areas of excellence to the table. And we also want to encourage the other regional institutions to make contributions, especially in computer science and K-12 science and math education programs. One more collaborative that is just beginning holds tremendous promise for this community. PSU and the Oregon Historical Society, our close neighbors down the park blocks, are discussing the potential establishment of a major education and research center in the Northwest.
Dan, I didn't know that. That's terrific. And Chet, I really didn't know that. This is not in the script. That's a wonderful collaboration, again, with the university and with the History Center and the city. So thank you. I'll be looking forward to hearing more about it.
Yeah, collaboration is also key to helping the city meet its goals to protect and improve livability, beauty, and the uniqueness of the city's neighborhoods, particularly in the face of the tremendous growth pressures that we now face. And in this regard, the city's goals and university's goals are really compatible. It's one where our visions are really, I think, aligned. One way to protect our neighborhoods is really to focus more on the growth in the central city, the Pearl District and the River District. The newest development potential is the South Downtown, where Portland State is located, and North Macadam. The idea of the University District is that it would serve as a catalyst for the development of the neighborhood that the city wants, and that's working. Later today at 4 o'clock, we'll be dedicating, you and I will be participating in the dedication of the new urban center and plaza that houses the College of Urban and Public Affairs and a state-of-the-art distance learning facility. That facility calls for, the district really calls for a mixture of university and commercial buildings, 15,000 new housing units, and also hopefully a new elementary school. Now, while we're talking about this partnership, I'd like to share with our friends the real commitment you, Mayor Katz, and the City Council have made to the university.
Let me just interrupt you, Dan. We have a member of the City Council, Commissioner Jim Francesconi,
Jim.
who is a wonderful partner in this effort too. Jim? Hello, Jim? Anybody else here from the City Council? Okay.
And Jim and the council have been tremendous friends of the university. You provided $2.5 million for the Urban Center Plaza, and that leveraged millions of dollars more in bonds from the state and several significant private donations, including Karen Brown Wilson, who is here with us today, our first $1 million donor to the university. Thank you, Karen. You've also given us the Simon Benson House, and you paid to move it to the campus, which is even better. That provided more than $400,000, making the city the largest single contributor to the project. The house will soon become the signature building on our campus and the home to our Alumni Association. The $50 million Central City streetcar project will connect PSU with Central City neighborhoods, including the Pearl District and Northwest. Your support of $5 million for the new PSU engineering building has really been a catalyst for support from our congressional delegation and state legislators, and will result in a further development in the university district. These are all the more recent projects building on past city support, such as projects which were part of the urban renewal area begun back in 1985. With much of the housing on the South Park blocks that has helped develop much of the neighborhood around our campus, and we appreciate it.
You know, we've made such investments because the City Council unanimously feels that this isn't about only buildings. This is about the people who enter the halls of these buildings. It's about our citizens. It's about the fact that higher education makes the greatest impact on people's lives and their ability to earn a decent living for their families. We talk a lot on the City Council, especially Commissioner Francesconi, about the gap between the haves and the have-nots that is increasing. And when you think about what's the one thing that we can do, the answer is we need to educate them. We need to make sure that Ben Canada, who's sitting here, does his job, and we need to make sure that Dan does his job, all of you do yours, and that we contribute wherever and however we can to make that commitment to education. The Wall Street Journal has done this article, and you know it now by heart, I'm sure, that if you have a bachelor's degree, you would earn an average nearly twice as much as people who have completed high school. And if you have an advanced degree, it is 3 times as much. Of course, I'm an exception on that. It's a long story, and I won't bore you with it now. Our young people must be able to complete high school. Some of us wear 100% pin for graduation. 100%. Everybody entering elementary school needs to finish high school. They need to enter college, community college, 4-year university. They need to relish learning, graduate successfully, and become involved in their community, caring to their community and to their families, well-rounded and productive citizens. And I think one of the greatest things about Portland State University, and I think I understood that a long, long time ago, that it offers students the entire city as its classroom. With the most diverse community in the state, you have the most diversity of students at Portland State University. Full-time students who know where they're going. They know they have a 4-year time commitment, and they go and complete their education within 4 years. Then you have the continuing education students who complement their work, come to Portland State, who complement their work or do things that they want to do for their families and provide that education for them. PSU has a mandate to serve a broader population than any other institution in Oregon. And it's that mandate that enriches the learning process for students, for the faculty, and for the community. The diversity of the student population enriches the real-world learning of all of our students. Now, I'm going to give you some examples of this diverse population, and we have 3 students here. So let me introduce the PSU student body president, Bar Johnson. Bar, stand up. Bar's a single parent who came to Portland State after being an underwater welder. And she found her intellectual heart in geology. And her enthusiasm for Portland State is contagious. The student government is now hers to lead. And she has been really very active, not only at her university, but also at registering Portland State University students to vote and planning a major vote education effort this year. Thank you. Brenda Starr, stand up. Now, she's a returning Portland State University who's studying English and Women's Studies. She worked as a lifeguard with special needs children. She did a stint as service coordinator at the Casey Eye Institute, and now she's a sophomore serving as a peer mentor in PSU's award-winning University Studies program. She plans to be a college professor someday. She has a 3.8 GPA, and Brenna says that Portland State has given her hope and a new home. Rob Haggerty. An older student. I told him that before, so he's an alumni, a Portland State University alumni with a bachelor's degree in history and social science. He had a successful business career in banking, but has always been active with schools, his local schools in the city. And so he made a wise, life-changing decision from banking to education. He's now at the Graduate School of Education, working to become a high school social science teacher, now doing his student teaching at Clackamas High School, the same school his daughter attends. So isn't that nice? Having said all that, I see several key challenges for Portland State. To continue to attract and serve such great students, you have to be able to provide access to a diverse population and I underline and, maintain high standards. And you have to continue to work at eliminating large barriers for those students, such as tuition, and small barriers. And you have to make the faculty and staff as diverse as your student body.
Mayor, you're absolutely right. And one of the responses to the mandate that you've described has been to develop more innovative approaches to meeting the needs of our students. We developed a campus-wide initiative aimed at increasing diversity, improving student advising so that our students are successful, and also assessment so that we know how well we're doing at meeting our mission. What we need to do is keep thinking of ways to encourage access for everyone so that everyone can benefit from higher education. Sometimes that means helping students adjust to college life, whether it's an older student who has decided to come back to higher education, later in life, or a younger student from a circumstance where higher education was not a priority. PSU was the first institution in the state to develop a co-admissions program with Clackamas Community College and Mount Hood Community College. I know that when you worked at PCC, you were involved with the Portland Teacher Project, which helped underrepresented youth in the Portland Public Schools to encourage them to become teachers and then attend PCC and transfer to PSU. We also hope to sign, actually on November 1st, our co-admissions agreement with Portland Community College as well. These are just a few examples of the programs we've developed to remove some of the barriers to higher education for Portland citizens. Often maintaining access means financial help, as you pointed out. And one of my priorities is to raise sufficient money for scholarships for students at PSU. It's also truly distressing when a lack of finances prohibits a deserving student from gaining an education, and at PSU, we're really committed to addressing that issue.
And we both have talked about quality education. As Harriet said, it is critical for students to master how to think, how to learn, how to analyze, how to write, how to do research, how to create, how to discuss, and think some more across various disciplines of the humanities, the sciences, the arts, and social sciences. And this process demands consistent quality teaching by excellent faculty. And when you have that base, then truly let knowledge serves the city, which is the Portland State motto. And I've been familiar with some of the programs that you have developed for us as a city so we can be partners. Your capstone program allows seniors who have accomplished that work to go out into the community to tackle real-world problems and projects. Two recent capstone programs, one where you received money for Nike, concerned opportunities for after-school activities for young girls, and an examination of potential barriers to volunteerism. Another capstone program that I heard about, PSU students have created a year-long leadership program with Latino students, helping them create a better future for themselves. And I was fortunate to work with some of your capstone students in the mayor's office, because what they wanted to do was to create a CD to share with the world, and because we're going to translate it into several foreign languages, the success of this city and its planning efforts. Also, we have gained in our effectiveness by the excellent work of your faculty. The College of Urban and Public Affairs, I've worked with them, the Hadfield School of Government, and the Population Research Center. Is anybody here from the Population Research Center? Good, I can talk about them. I have pestered them over and over again for the latest census data or the American Survey data. Without giving, Dan, I haven't even paid you for this, but they have always been there. They have always provided the most recent information so we can be thinking about the demographics of the future. We don't have that kind of staff, and so thank you very much for providing that for the city and for all the help for the county and other regional governments as well. So I appreciate your work, and I appreciate looking forward to additional collaboration. We know you have many outstanding faculty members who are familiar with the problems of our area and want the best for Portland, as you and I do. And as one faculty member recently said to us, and I quote that faculty member, "After all, we are the faculty of the University of the City," which is kind of nice.
By the way, that invoice is in the mail from the
and so this is the beginning. This is the beginning of a much closer collaboration.
It is. On that note, I would like everyone to see a number of our great faculty and staff. So the members of the PSU faculty and staff who are here, please stand up, be recognized. Shortly after today's City Club presentation, we will be engaged in the continuation of our faculty symposium that started this morning, dealing with the theme great city, great university, and we'd welcome all of you to join us for that presentation.
Before we end, I want to enlarge the discussion and talk a little bit about the learning community and what that means. Is Bob Weil here? He's Wheel.
It's probably in class.
Yeah. I didn't know this. I did know that he was over 65. I also did know that citizens who are over 65 can go to Portland State University and not have to pay tuition. And I think Bob has taken every course, and I understand he's now taking the same course over again because the professor has retired and there's somebody new in the classroom. That's part of a learning city. It also means small groups in the community coming together to learn something new each year, but to learn it in depth. I think it also can mean families reading books together where they learn together. It also means thinking very creatively and out of the box to up-to-date training being available when and where large and small companies require it. Yesterday, I had lunch with 6 .com companies, and they need timely, up-to-date R&D and advanced coursework. In fact, one of them is online with a program that will provide a graduate degree tying several universities together. So this is where the new economy or the current economy is going. I think it's important that we provide learning opportunities for our senior citizens. We know where they reside. They're in centers around this community. I think it would be important for our city bureaus to more closely link with PSU faculty. We don't know everything. There's also opportunities, I think, for mid-career career advancement programs and career change. Not a formal PhD, but something to give somebody who wants to make that mid-career change an opportunity to attend classes. I do think we all need to be committed to lifelong learning. I plan to come back to school and give you a hard time at some point. And we need to do it because you all know change is happening very quickly. Very quickly. These .com companies told me that they're going to be out of date in a year and a half and 2 years, and they're going to have to reinvent themselves over and over again. We live longer, and we should be smarter, because if you think that retiring and playing golf is what it's all about, you're wrong. And you all know that we have more than one career. We have several careers, so changing careers, we need to be up to speed and allow students to do that. And then, of course, the most important, just the joy of learning. So this, what I think, means a learning city. And I know PSU is thinking about it. You're doing a lot of this, and I hope to hear about it in your discussions.
I think we're out of time. I just would again like to invite all of you to help us continue the conversation immediately after the City Club.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
The mayor will answer all questions.
Thanks to both of you. I'm Jane Cease, and I do happen to be married to a Portland State professor, so this may be biased. But I'd like to ask both of you to give us some comments about the future and maybe a broader area. What, in today's world, a city and a university are really more than just that. And so if you could comment a little bit more about today's world and the role of the city and the university in this metropolitan area and in coping with today's world and maybe the edge of tomorrow's.
Jane, I think in my last comments I tried to describe where I think we can begin thinking a little bit differently about how we improve the lives of our citizens and what we can do both at the university level and at the city level to make that happen. When I talk to young men and women who have started a career here, it is very, very evident that they are going to have to come back somewhere at least 5, 6, 7, or 8 times in their lifetime. And whether we do it on the internet, or we do it in a building, or we do it in an office somewhere, I think that lifelong learning experience has to be there. And Portland State University is on the right track in making that happen. I also think, as I went online, there aren't very many places that give graduate degrees. In this particular case, it's business administration. And tying it to universities around the country. We ought to be thinking about that. Not only the university, but the city ought to be thinking about how we can develop a much cleaner tie with regard to best practices from city to city to city. That's just a few.
Yeah, we're working hard to have Portland State University really be synonymous with the city of Portland, and that people think of the two as inextricably intertwined. As I said before, we really see Portland State as a major good citizen in the Portland community, and through our collaborations with our sister institutions in the region on engineering, science, and technology, with our collaboration with the Oregon Historical Society, we really see ourselves as becoming a major comprehensive university for Portland and for the region.
Let me give another example. Dan and I were just talking about it before our presentations. We're visioning now for the Rose Quarter and the East Bank on the other side. And one of our target industries is the creative services target industries, which includes .com software, public relations firms, people like Wyden and Kennedy, Will Vinton. And we would like to partner with the university to create a science and technology opportunity. So that if we will, and I think we will be the creative services center on the West Coast, we need to have those kinds of partnerships that today are not there, are not present.
Greetings. Oh, it's not on. Is it on now? Yeah. I'm Carol Witherell, City Club member. Education is as much about creating citizens as it is a workforce. Yet many of our youth and young adults have never developed or have lost a sense of confidence and faith in government and the civic and ethical and electoral processes involved in the democratic process, believing that these no longer serve the interests of many people and their children and their communities, including their K-12 schools. So my question is a challenge to us all, but mostly to you. How can city leaders, City Club members, and educators help in developing a vital civic force that is prepared to engage the really tough ethical and civic challenges ahead of us in the next century and millennium?
That's an excellent question. Let me tell you what I've... Yeah, it's big picture. Let me tell you, because of what you just described, Carol Turner, will you stand up and raise your hand? She's the educational advocate for the city, and she happens to be located in my office. And in trying to tackle that problem, we made a decision to ask all the student leaders of the 5 school districts, the Centennial, Reynolds, Park Rose, Portland. Which one did I miss, Dan? David Douglas. They're top student leaders, they're presidents of their student body, and in some cases they're vice president, because we wanted to have a progression. And they're newspaper editors, magazine editors, or yearbook editors, feeling that this would be a core of students that we could engage in some of these issues. And they've worked with the media because they wanted the media to see a different side of their life. But the most important work they did, they made a presentation to Dan and to the school board, I think it was 2 weeks ago. They they studied what a new high school would look like, the high school of the future. And they visited schools, they interviewed 150 people, they put together a report that's now in the hands of the Portland School District. I could only do so much, but I think if I do some of this kind of work, at least the leaders in the community would make that connection between their government and themselves. And we've also allowed them to come back over and over again and participate in our office as interns. And it's kind of fun to see them come back after their first year at the university.
Imagine. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Christy Nelson. I'm a faculty member in the Graduate School of Social Work at PSU, and I wanted to applaud Mayor Katz for her emphasis on education and closing the gap, the growing gap between the haves and the have-nots in Portland, in Oregon, and in our nation and world. But I also wanted to ask that in order to take full advantage of education, students need to have food, they need to have health care, they need to have housing. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to learn. And how do you envision the partnership between the city and PSU in contributing to the overall quality of life and reducing that gap between the haves and the have-nots?
The point I was trying to make, as you just mentioned, was the importance of education. But we all know, too, that they have to have a roof over their head, they have to feel safe, and there has to be some food on the table. And one of the other very important priorities, as most of you know, for the city is providing affordable housing. And we've done an incredible job using our own very scarce general fund dollars, not only with the federal funds, but our own, way over $36 million, they're close now to over $40 million in just very few years, to provide affordable housing where we don't have urban renewal districts. And where we do have urban renewal districts, most of that money is going to housing, because I feel that if a family has a safe and clean place to live, other things would fall in place. The other thing that we're doing, as you all know, is workforce training and bringing people into the workforce to be trained and retrained so that they have a career ladder. Now, that's easier said than done, but the importance is to bring them into the initial training and then figure out what kind of career ladders you can provide, what kind of other training opportunities. To that extent, our connection between Portland State University and, quite honestly, with the community colleges is critical.
And our role, I think, is to reach back as far as we can in a student's educational experience to have some influence as an educational institution. We clearly have partnerships with the Portland Public Schools, our partnerships with the community colleges. We actually have some of our capstone programs in the high schools. So our view is that as the sooner we can have an exposure and impact on a student, the more likely that student is to think positively about higher education. But more importantly for us, they're also likely to think positively about PSU as a school that they'd like to attend.
And I really do think that in your discussions, you ought to be thinking about how would we finance no tuition, so that any student that reaches a certain level of excellence in their high school career knows from day one that they can enter an institution in Oregon and be there for as long as it takes for them to graduate. Now, they need to pay it back, but if you provide them the education, it'll be there.
Hi, I'm Deborah McKay, City Club member. My question is for President Bernstine. As a PSU pre-med student myself, I appreciate PSU's pipeline reputation for providing students to the health professional programs up at OHSU. Engineering is necessary and it's in the spotlight currently, but I have to ask, if PSU claims bragging rights to graduating so many future doctors and physicians, then why must we, who are the science students at PSU, make do with outdated labs and equipment in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences?
You can answer that, Dan.
I don't. He didn't put me up to
How
this.
much money is
really.
Marvin putting in his pocket right now?
He didn't put me up to this, really. I don't need to remind you that chemistry and physics are departments within the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences where all engineering students are also required to take classes. Thank you.
Dean Kaiser, would you like to answer? No, actually, that's a very good question, and we are one of the major providers of students to Oregon Health Sciences University, and we're very proud of that. Engineering, science, technology is a priority at PSU. At the same time, we have to maintain our commitment to the humanities, the liberal, and fine arts. During this last biennium, as I said before, PSU had a significant a significant increase in new funds, and we did make some substantial investments in improving our science labs, and we hope to continue that investment in the future. Our upcoming capital campaign will also have a focus on engineering, science, and technology, and of course improving the science labs, not only for science but also for engineering, will be a priority in that campaign as well. You were just trying to get me on the record, I know.
Thank you.
Okay.
Join the crowd.
Since this is a joint meeting in Portland State and the City Club, let me ask this as a faculty member of Portland State. Both of you, Dan being a current boss and Vera being a former boss as the Speaker of the House, but neither one of you, I think your responses would be useful. As you know, Portland State has a very large capital program that we're undertaking, and I'd be interested in knowing from Dan's view and from your view, Vera, how the city might help on that.
Well,
It's never been enough, Ron, even in the legislature.
Well, you always used to say, trust me.
Trust me.
So that's right.
well, let me just say that the city really has been a major player already. If you recall, at the mayor's State of the City address, she announced a substantial commitment to engineering at PSU, and that's resulted in a $500.
$5 million.
$5 million. Just seemed like fun. No.
And I have 4.5 more to go. So there's your answer.
Yeah. And that's a significant catalyst for the new engineering facility. And so I think the city has played a very significant role and a very appropriate role in terms of its support for PSU. And of course, we have to look to other public resources and private donors as well.
Let me just add also the streetcar, an additional $7 million to get it to Portland State University, thanks to the work of the City Council and Commissioner Hales and everybody who was involved. So for us, that really has been a major commitment to the university. Who knows what the future will bring?
I appreciate that. I would say that another way that the city can help, of course, is all kinds of good services. It isn't just money.
Good point.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Brad Robertson. I'm the director of the Business Outreach Program at the Portland State University, and we do small business consulting in North and Northeast Portland, and we have a contract with the City of Portland. I wanted to thank you for your support. Working in North and Northeast Portland in business consulting, I also have connections with the community. I wonder what both the city and the university can do to attract more students from that part of town.
Well, again, I think to the extent that we as a university can reach back further into a student's educational experience and attempt to have an influence, and I think what your programs such as yours and other programs, some of the capstone opportunities that we provide our students, I think have provided an entree and an exposure to students that might not have ever thought about a university education. We attempt to bring kids in using the community recreation field in the summer, and although that may be a recreational opportunity, for many of those kids, it's really their first time on a college campus. And we really see that as a way of exposing students to a university and what a university might mean to them. And we really hope that those students will end up not only at some university, but hopefully at PSU.
High expectations from the day they walk into kindergarten. I have a little grandchild who's 7 years old. he came over and I put away some money every month and I get a bond. Probably not the best investment tool. I apologize for that. But it's a visual investment tool. He can't read the stock page. And I showed him the stack of bonds. And I said, Max, this is for you and this is for your college. And so he knows that everybody in his family expects him to go to college. And I think that's number one. The other is to deal with the financial gap, which is the reason that I threw the notion of if they do well in school, just they ought to have their education paid for. I was not an English major.
Carolyn, I really should let you go first. Carolyn Timmerman, I'm a Portland State University graduate and a City Club member. My question is, do you have any plans for putting branches in Eastern Oregon or Southern Oregon?
No, we're not ready to take over the world yet. Actually, we offer electrical. We have just started an electrical engineering program via the internet at Eastern Oregon University, and we're looking at whether that program will be successful. In terms of some of our statewide programs, such as public administration, social work, we already offer educational programs around the state. And in my view, I think it's important to have strong regional institutions. If we have the strong regional institutions, it makes it easier for us to collaborate with an Eastern Oregon on a program rather than our trying to have to duplicate an entire new infrastructure in some other distant facility.
Ben Canada, Superintendent, Portland Public Schools and City Club member. Both of you have talked about the value of early intervention. You've both talked about what happens after high school. And I'm glad to hear that because I think too often we go into one or the other, and I'm glad to hear both of you talking about pre-kindergarten through grade 16, which means that we get them early and move them forward. We're all facing a couple of initiatives in November that could make a significant difference in the ability for all of us to continue what I see as outstanding performance in moving toward a goal of a truly educated populace where 100% of our students are given the opportunity and therefore graduating on time. But I'd like for both of you to comment on the value that could be received from a combined lobbying effort that really talked about pre-K through grade 16, so that there is not the pull and push between one or the other, but recognizing that if you don't get a solid education by the time you're third grade, you're not going to have the opportunity to move forward. But we need to have the lobbying efforts supporting each other.
I think that's exactly what we need to do. I think one of the successes of the Oregon University system last year was that we did not pit ourselves against each other, but rather we came in as a system and we talked about funding higher education as a system. I think we should welcome the opportunity to work with pre-K through 12 to go to the legislature with a much more comprehensive approach to not just higher education or pre-K through 12, but education in general for all Oregonians.
And we will add all of that to our final legislative package. I commit to that. Let me do a mea culpa. You get to a point in life where you don't often get an opportunity to look at Portland State faculty and say something to you. It's a mea culpa that I did not truly understand, even though Ron Cease tried to educate me, the importance of the university, an urban university in the city while I was in the legislature. I understand it absolutely now. And so I want to thank Dan for giving me the opportunity to work closely with Portland State University and with all of you, because it is our university and it is our city, and we are both great. And if we're not great today, we're going to be greater tomorrow. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Katz and President Bernstine, for engaging us in what promises to be a dynamic, ongoing, community-wide conversation. I also think I speak for all of us here today in noting how remarkably well your random notes work together. I also would like to encourage all non-City Club members here today to consider becoming members, especially Portland State University faculty. The faculty of area colleges and universities have historically provided an intellectual underpinning that has enhanced the work of City Club and enriches us all. I've been asked to make note that there will be a 10-minute break before the breakout sessions will resume again in this room. Thank